Welcome, everybody, to PinstripeChronicles podcast. I am Tats. I am here with Rob and Donald. And I think it's safe to say, that Cole is just, the temperature was cold. He was cold. And we're all pissed off. And there's no explanation of why he had such a nice first inning, and then the second inning just completely went to crap. There's really no other nice way to put it, without getting overly vulgar, which we're all tempted to do right now because, it's not like it was just one start. This is now his third start into the season. We've seen no improvement from all the questions from last year, not without the Spider attack. So is this just what Cole is? Is he, a mediocre pitcher now, or can he regain his stat? What's it going to take for him to become that ace again? I tweeted out yesterday. I said it's pretty sad. We've seen our number one pitcher pitch like a number five, and our number five is pitching like a number one. And it just speaks to just how backwards the organization is as a whole. But I really want to just focus on the pitching today because you can't, originally you're like, all right, it was the cold weather. It was the first inning was just a long inning. It was a weird inning. Maybe the cold got to him, but none of the other pitchers had that problem. So what do you think it really is when it comes to what's wrong with Cole, Rob?
I mean, even Cole himself didn't go to blame the cold weather. He said it's something that he's dealt with in his career before, but you just kind of sit there perplexed, like what is it? Because he was fine without the spider tack for a while last year. And then he had the hamstring injury. Is that still around and he's just not telling anybody? I highly doubt it. It's been so long. I don't think he is this pitcher. I think he will be better. But it's still very concerning that our ace can't get out of the second inning against the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a lot of struggling bats in their lineup as well, and he's walking the bases loaded and walking in runs with the bases loaded. And he have 5-6 walks yesterday? He didn't touch that till like his 10th start last year or something like that. So yeah, something's up with him. I don't know, maybe he's trying to throw his new cutter too much and he's just not going to the basics, knowing what works with him. I was thinking he was going to make a bunch of excuses, but he didn't. He just kind of owned up to it finally. He didn't go ahead and say, yeah, it was the weather, it was a delay. He just said flat out he wasn't good. So there is no excuses because everybody else that followed him was fine. Even Aroldis Chapman, who is brutal when he's off, he threw a clean inning in the ninth. So it's concerning when the guy's making as much as he is. You want to say it's just the early season, he'll be fine, but you need him even in his first 3 starts. For the money he's making, he's got to go out there and give you a quality start basically every single time. And we actually scored some runs for him early. They weren't the best way to score runs, but, we put some numbers on the board.
Yeah, they're runs nonetheless, yeah.
Yeah, and he went out and almost gave it right back. So it was annoying to see him not go 2. And I'm hoping that next start he just comes out and puts it all in the past and is back to being Gerrit Cole. Because if he's not, then we can kiss any hope goodbye of this being a good year.
Yep. Donald, what do you attribute to the rough start?
Well, I've given Gerrit Cole like a wide margin of error to this point. I've never really called him out at any point. The only time that I've maybe expressed a little bit of concern was him making excuses actually on opening day. That 4 minutes that he started ranting and raving about Billy Crystal. I mean, that they kind of gave off the diva vibe to me that I don't think will work in New York. I'm certainly not terribly happy with the way he's pitching. He just doesn't seem, his command seems to be off. That seems to be the biggest concern because usually his command is spot on. So I really don't know. I don't think it's going to be a massive. Again, it sounds like I'm making excuses for him, but I still have faith that, I mean, it is very early that he's going to come around, but I'm starting to really seriously consider that he might not be the best pitcher in the American League anymore.
Yeah.
And he kind of needs to be if this season is going to be a good one. Anything less than a Cy Young caliber year, and our year is going to struggle. He really needs to start acing out from here on out. I mean, maybe it's just the start that it's April and he's not had a full spring, and maybe I'm making excuses for him again. I really don't know. It's very odd. He's pitching the worst he's ever pitched for us.
Well, that's what it is.
Wild card game.
You had, in that second inning, it was the first time in his career that he's walked the bases loaded. It's the first time in his career he's walked in a run. Mm-hmm. And it was the highest pitch count he's ever thrown in his career. It was also the shortest outing of his career. Those aren't landmarks you want to make when you're one of the top paid guys in the American League. It's not that's not the records you want to break when you're the ace of the New York Yankees. And I think calling him an ace of the Yankees is like calling me a great host. It's he can't do it.
It's about harsh, man.
So
you're actually, to be fair,
I'm a good host, but I'm not a great host. I'm not the best.
To be fair to the audience, you're a better host than Gerrit Cole is as a pitcher right now.
Well, I appreciate that.
There you go.
Only took me 2 years, but I got a compliment out of you.
I got a compliment out of it. Here we go.
The ace of the staff. We've only got a three-man staff here on our Pinstripe Chronicles show, and Bobby Tats is the ace. We're a playoff rotation. Bobby Tats.
We're like the 09 Yankees,
Yeah.
I think you're stretching at calling him the ace. I think he's a solid 3.
Yeah.
Well, he's the.
Now, I also, as much as we have, we're getting a few good laughs, and Cole has just been terrible. What do we do with the narrative that maybe he, for fans that think it's time to move on from him? What is it too early to say, or is it, because he's also, and it's been pointed out in a lot of discussions, whether it's with your friends in the work, in the break room at work, or at the table, or on radio. After what we saw in the wild card game at Boston, to what we've seen these 3 starts, can the Yankees, are the fans that want him gone wrong? Donald,
I've not come across too many fans that want him gone, unless you guys are seeing more than I'm seeing. I think fans are just pissed off. I mean, I don't know what. To be honest, it's not really a conversation worth getting into. He's not going anywhere. I mean, listen, he's got a massive contract. We need to get him fixed. You're not going to fix anything by getting rid of him, right? We had an opportunity in the offseason if we wanted to, add pitchers like a Bassett, for instance. Look at what Bassett's doing for the Mets. Holy moly. But, I mean, listen, our rotation's not been the problem. And I'd rather shift it to actually a more positive question. What about Schmidt? I mean, Schmidt saved the game for us right there. Let's talk about Schmidt for a minute. I mean, we'll have to move on from Gerrit Cole because, listen, there's not really much we could discuss. He sucks right now, and it's a problem. And I don't really quite know what the answer is right now, other than he has to fix himself. But he's not going anywhere, so it's not really worth discussing that. He ain't going anywhere. So certainly for this year, and the year after, it's really on him. The contingency is on him to fix himself. So moving on to Schmidt, his secondary pitches are lethal. The movement on his secondary pitches are really spectacular. I'm quite blown away by it because, when he first kind of came to the majors, I was like, oh, no, sure. Not seeing too much here, but there's a new pitcher here right now. He's got some vicious movement on his pitches, and I'll tell you what, Aaron Boone saved the game right there. If he left Gerrit Cole in
to finish
the rest
the
of that
inning,
we lose the ball game. We've lost. So credit to the manager where it's due for being efficient. He's usually very well known for just leaving guys in too long or too short. He got it right on this occasion. Credit where it's due. and saved the game. And Schmidt saved the game. It was a special outing from Schmidt, and there's a real chance now that Schmidt could be a fourth or fifth starter for us by the end of the year.
Bringing Schmidt in with runners on, I'm like, oh, here we go again. Can't because we've seen him come in, with runners on base, and he doesn't, he hasn't shown, pitching out of the stretch to start to start his outing hasn't fared well for him. But Schmidt kind of showed us all up, going, all right, he just brought it, and he pitched very well, and then he gave us 3 innings, so he was able to eat up innings that rather than just going 1 inning per bullpen guy. So he showed himself to be a legitimate long man, even and if it's only for this outing, we'll take it because we need these wins. Rob, what was your thought? Were you had reserves with Schmidt coming in with runners on, or it was just you didn't care as long as Cole was out?
Better him than someone like Peralta, or Castro, because Castro's got the command issues. But Schmidt, I mean, he's been this guy since the spring. Like, now that he's finally healthy, like you mentioned with the secondary pitches, Donald, those things are wicked. He's been on Pitching Ninja a few times already this year, and those things move. And it's crazy to think that people keep saying that baseball is easy when you try to hit that pitch. It's difficult. No, he really did save the game, and I do want to give credit to Aaron Boone because he's been a different manager so far this year.
Yeah.
Lineup changes aside, he's taking guys out when he needs to. He's trying to win the games more than he would have last year, and he's even answering questions differently. You're not going to hear him.
Demeanor.
Yeah, it's different. It feels different. It's like he's almost being allowed to be somewhat of himself right now without the shadow of ego Cashman over him. But Clark Schmidt saved the game, because if Cole stays in that game to try to get one more out and say, you're the ace, we're going to let you go, he probably gives up another hit. They score 2 more. We obviously only scored 1 more run, so maybe we go to extras again, and we probably lose in extras because we just can't win games in extra innings. So, Clark Schmidt saved the game, and the bullpen was phenomenal in general. But, man, 6 strikeouts and 3 1/3, that's more than you can ask for. It reminds me of a few years ago when Chasen Shreve came in and pitched like 5 innings out of the pen and like saved us from having to use the bullpen in an early season game. But Schmidt's a guy that should stay on this roster right now, but I feel like these are the kind of performances where the Yankees send a player down afterwards.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of, okay, you pitched 3 1/3, we're probably not going to use you again for a few more days, so we're going to send you down, then call you back up after the 10-day spell. Hats off to him, because it's good to see him healthy and pitching well, because he's a guy the Yankees have a lot of high hopes for, and so far the patience has paid off. The prospect hugging with him has paid off so far. I'm just hoping that they don't screw with him too much. Right now, his role is that long reliever swingman type of guy, so it's working.
I wouldn't overuse that, though. He is a starter. He needs to be worked out as a starter. So the longer the Yankees keep this up, the less I'll be happy about it. This is working for now. This is working for now, but eventually they need to work him in as a starter and keep him in there as a starter, because they've done this before. There's no debate about it. They've done this before, and they've killed pitchers doing it. They can't just keep him in intermittently as a bullpen guy. For the short term, fine, but then they need to show trust in him to nail down that 4th or 5th spot, keep him there, work out the kinks from there. And, if you need to have somebody as a swingman to support him in the short term, fine, but he needs to be worked out as a starter, because his stuff is starter material. So that's all I'll say on Schmidt.
Now, I want to bring up the audit we got from Chapman, because when he called in Chapman, I'm like, he was doing so well with the pitching, and now you bring you're bringing in Chapman to close the game out, where he hasn't been exactly himself either. Especially early season Chapman. We haven't seen that yet until last night. And I thought it was kind of ironic that, Cole's walking the ballpark, and Chapman comes in and he's able to just have a very, he had a clean inning. Is this, do you think that Chapman's got all the kinks worked out with his command, or is this just another, this was an enigma?
Absolutely not. His next outing, he's throwing 6 at the backstop. He's so annoying. This is what bothers me about him, because we see the outing he had last night, and you're like, yeah,
where's that guy?
Every night, be that guy. And then the next time he goes out there, he's throwing him 30 feet up in the air. So I hate the freaking, it's like a seesaw with him. You're going to get the good one, and you're going to get the really, really bad one too, maybe even the next batter. You just don't know what you're getting batter for batter with Chapman. I'm glad we got it last night, because I was afraid when he brought him in. I was like, if Cole couldn't handle this weather, Chapman is somehow going to sweat buckets in it. And he gave us a clean inning. So, tip of the cap to him and the entire bullpen. Thankfully, it worked out. Aaron Boone pressed all the right buttons yesterday. And I just hope that we see it more than not with Chapman. We see those innings, because you're going to get the bad ones. You hope that they're spread out this season instead of like 3 or 4 straight just awful innings.
Yeah.
So, hopefully he's figured something out, because he looks pissed, because that's something, he looks mad, because he had that outing the other day where he blew it up. His last 2, he's looked mad, and he's been really good. So maybe he needs to be angry every time, which is scary.
Yeah.
I was pissed as I am watching.
What was your thoughts on the 9th inning?
I'm exactly where Rob said. I can't say that he's fixed. It's a day-to-day thing with him. You take the good, and you hope that it continues, but let's be honest, it won't, because we've seen it for too long. He is what he is at this point. You just gotta try and work around it as much as possible. Boone's got a hell of a job this year. I don't envy it. I really don't envy it. He is in a no-win position. Do you know what's interesting? I was listening to Michael Kay, and finally Michael Kay took off his homer cap, and he let the Yankees have it, which was really good to hear. Did you hear what he said on his on his radio show the other day? He called out Cashman for having 9 regulars for 8 spots. He said that it's a disaster waiting to happen, because that means that Boone has to rotate every single day, because of the fact that Cashman has 9 regular position players for just 8 spots. So he says that's a huge problem. And he also obliterated Boone for setting Judge on Jackie Robinson Day. Apparently, Cameron Maben spoke to a lot of African-American players in the league, and they were all disgusted at the Yankees for sitting Aaron Judge on Jackie Robinson Day. He said it's a disgusting thing that they did there. So I'm glad that people are starting to look at the Yankees in a not favorable light, because they deserve it the way that they're behaving right now. Michael Kay said it's a joke the way that they're sitting everybody on a daily basis. Aaron Boone says that he's never going to have anybody play 10 games in a row. And Michael Kay said that in that case, get new players then, because obviously they're not fit enough or healthy enough in that case. He says it's an absolute embarrassment. No other team does it in the sport, he said. So he said the six Atlanta Braves, who went on to win the World Series, played at least 155 games last year. So there's no excuse to be sitting everybody on a daily basis. So I'm glad that he finally took off his homer cap. Now, he still let the Yankee fans have it for being upset, but he's such a contradiction, because he calls us out, but then just lets the Yankees have it anyway. So who knows with him? But I'm glad that finally somebody working for Yes Network finally told the truth, because that's all I'm at. Oh, getting all really.
Yeah.
See him getting all worked up there. Getting all worked up there. But finally, someone's just telling it as it is. We're not idiots. I'm so glad that finally our voice is being heard, at least on a national level, because the way the Yankees are behaving is an absolute disgrace. And I'll be quite honest, our lineup is disgraceful. Our offense is horrible. It's such a joke, and we have to basically ignore it. We can't even talk about it in this episode because it's such a joke. We just have to focus on the positives, which is the pitching. And there's not even all the pitching, just minus Gerrit Cole, the bullpen once again. So, oh my God, this team, it's bad because you look at the Mets. The Mets are roasting everyone. They're playing beautiful baseball.
The Mets are playing well. There's a lot of good baseball
fantastic
going on.
stuff. Yeah, everywhere else, but not in New York. The Yankees are horrible to watch, and they were still horrible to watch yesterday.
Even do you think that how much of a factor is the extreme cold weather that we're seeing in Detroit? Because it almost seems like once the game got going, after that first, it's almost like after the first inning, when everybody was still warmed up and just coming onto the field, it seems like once they started really sitting is when everything started to come undone. Is there a certain temperature in the where it goes too cold, where you say it's just not, you just don't play the game?
I'm sorry. Where are you going with this? We were terrible all last year. We didn't hit all last year either. It's not the cold, man. It's just the problem with the team. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really hit anyway. So the thing is, we had probably our best game in terms of at bats yesterday. Like Falefa was getting on and stealing bases. Aaron Hicks is getting on base, stealing bases. But we're just not able to bring them in. Like our big bats are not doing their job, which is annoying. It's not going to be as cold as it was in Detroit every day. So like next week, it's going to probably be warmer, wherever the heck they're playing in a week from now. But I don't know.
No, next week it's supposed to drop to the 30s in Detroit.
But we're not going to be in Detroit next week.
I know. I'm just
thankfully, but I just want to see them put together better at bats. But this goes back to what you were just talking about with the lineup thing. You're not going to see that if they don't have a regular lineup. So the fact that we won last night, if we talk about the lineup real quick, we better see the same freaking lineup tonight.
Yeah.
The same lineup, maybe Trevino over Higgy, because I'm sick of watching Higgy bat right now. The guy
I want Trevino. Yeah, Trevino's got to be the catcher.
Let Trevino play. And if you have to sit Torres, then sit him. At this point, he's not giving you anything. And I'll even say this. If the Yankees want to show the fans that they're serious about trying to win, they should call up Florial and start him over Gallo. I like Joey Gallo, but he has given us literally nothing. In 11 games, how many games he's played this year, he's drawn like a couple of walks and a couple of singles. Everything else is a strikeout. He's doing 0 at the plate. So you're kind of hurting yourself. You can't tell me that Florial couldn't give you better at bats than Gallo is right now. So
for 4 with 4 strikeouts, Gallo yesterday.
Yeah, you can't have that.
What's his batting average? Is it 150 now? 120? Something like that?
Batting average matters and still at some capacity. And I think Joel Sherman said it on MLB Now yesterday. Maybe now more so than ever. Batting average kind of matters because if you have guys like him and Rizzo's hitting just above 200, you can look at on base all you want, but if they're not producing, Gallo hasn't driven in a run yet. I don't think so.
No, he hasn't. 0 RBIs. No, it's crazy.
His stats right now, Gallo's got 33 at bats. He's got a 121 batting average, no home runs, no RBIs, and a 377 OPS.
377 OPS. That's bad.
And that's really bad. That's who you have starting over Florial.
Right, and they're going to use the contract. But if the Yankees want to show people that, even though it's just 11 games, and I know Gallo can go on a tear at some point where he's hitting like 10 homers, and I know he's probably going to end up finishing with a good amount of home runs, but
we need it. We need help now.
Yeah, try something different. He's giving you 0 production right now, so send LeCastro down because you're not using him, and let Florial because you keep the lefty bat. You're going to get more speed. You're going to get defense. He can play defense just fine. And you're probably going to get better at bats every time you go out there with Florial right now than Gallo. So maybe it's time to try something just a little bit different. You're telling players, if you're not hitting, you're not playing. And I think it needs to be that way in terms of Gallo, because you're not going to sit Judge. You can't sit Stanton. You really can't sit anybody else on this team. But Gallo, what's he giving you? You know, like, you have outfielders. You might as well try them out.
I mean, look at Starling Marte for the Mets. 10 RBIs already from the leadoff spot. 9 runs, 10 RBIs. What's Joey Gallo giving us? 0 RBIs. And Joey Gallo's in the middle of the order. And there's a massive problem there. So he's giving the Mets 10 RBIs from leadoff spot. He was one of the guys that I wanted us to go and sign in free agency.
Yeah, we were all looking at him.
So we're not out of our minds. Suzuki, the year that Suzuki is having right now, he's batting over 300. Let's see, let's get his numbers up, because this is another guy that we were campaigning for in free agency who was very, very affordable. Like, the contract that he signed was pretty damn cheap. Oh my God, he's batting 414. Are you out of your freaking mind? Batting 414 with 11 RBIs, 12 hits, 9 runs, and 12 walks. How many walks did Joey Gallo have? So, Seiya Suzuki is a much better player than Joey Gallo in every stat you could possibly ask for. I'm not interested in his expected batting average, guys. It doesn't really mean anything if you're striking out all the time. So, those were guys that we could have had that would have instantly brought contact, speed, plus walks, runs, and RBIs to a roster that badly needs it. So we're not out of our minds. It's Brian Cashman.
Yep.
He's the one. He is the problem. You know, he thinks that we're so freaking stupid. I mean, we've just come up with 2 really cheap alternatives right there, and would have instantly upgraded our roster. So I'm very frustrated about it. I can't watch us offensively. Like, it's garbage to watch. If I'm watching, like, for instance, I only watched the game this morning. I skipped all our top half of every inning. I skipped all our offensive stuff. I only watched the bottom half, our pitching, because it was the only thing that was interesting. It was the only thing that we were actually good at. Like, I knew that we weren't scoring any runs. After the 3rd run scored, it was like, oh, that's us done. And I was right. It's terrible that I absolutely knew exactly what was going to happen every single inning. Isn't that disgusting? It's embarrassing.
Well,
I knew exactly what was going to happen. Oh, my God.
They got to do better tonight. And I think with Severino on the mound, we're going to get a longer pitch. That's, anybody can get a better, longer outing than Cole did yesterday. But Severino's just got to bring it. He's got to continue to improve, because you've seen just a little bit more out of him in each start so far. Now it's time for him to show that he can still give us length. That's been the issue with these pitchers. And I think going into the third rotation of the third go around through the rotation, they need to start pushing the innings rather than just the pitch counts. So that's what I said, the last couple of days, what I want to see them do. But that's going to wrap things up for us today. Just remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Check out our social media in the description. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're all over the place. Also, listen to us on sportname.com/player and on Northeast Streaming Sports on Roku. We're your pinstripes for pride and play hard.
We're all over the place.